Alrighty guys, we are back. So this time, we're going to do this raw, unscripted, unedited. Just one big blathering of just this lore topic that I find very, very fascinating. And for some reason, it's not leaving my mind. It is literally stuck in my mind. I can't stop thinking about it. The Great Drought. The Long Drought. This is a Jade Empire lore video. So, if you have not played Jade Empire, I would highly, highly recommend you stop watching and just go play the game. If not, then hey, it's your own fault. So, the Long Drought. This was a time period set 20 years prior to the game starting. So, when your game starts, you're a 20-year-old dude who's doing some stuff, and you keep hearing about this event in history called the Long Drought. And it's a really bleak period in the Jade Empire, where what happened was there was a 10-year drought of constant heat and zero rain. Now, what's interesting about this is that this long drought actually almost destroyed the entire empire, because people were starving, people were dying, and a lot of the commoners you meet, no matter who they are, from farmers way out in the fringes of the empire to the actual capital of the empire, the imperial city, everyone still talked about the long drought, even though it was like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So this is how major of an event it was. People were dying in quote-unquote hundreds of thousands, and this was going on for over 10 years. And then suddenly the emperor just comes out and he says, "I now proclaim the drought is over." And then the drought stopped. All of a sudden, water was rushing back to the lands. Huge waterfalls gushing out of the Imperial Palace as it levitates above the city. There's just tons of life being brought back into the Jade Empire, and a lot of it is centrally focused in the Imperial City. So, this is where I just couldn't stop thinking about it. A 10-year drought? That is excessive. That is ridiculous. And it is, of course, come to find out that the Jade Empire is not without its precautions. The Empire is smart enough to have procurements of resources. And it was said that the Empire's own granaries, so we're talking massive storage silos of grains, rice, all sorts of goodies, were finally being depleted in the Imperial City last. So this tells me that there's probably a lot of reserves out there. But 10 long years was enough to just break the system. It was enough to cause a societal and economic collapse. Where 10 long years, farms were dying and they couldn't pay off debts. They couldn't afford food and water. And what's interesting here is that we see sort of how the Jade Empire works, where everything is centralized. So in other words, you're a farmer, you're making rice, or you're caring for a herd of ox, whatever it could be. Despite the fact that you are right next to the source of food in the empire, despite the fact you are right next to it, your first duty is to give it to the empire, to make sure the empire thrives before you and your family can eat. This is not unique to the Jade Empire, but this is unique in the sense that we rarely get a game or a story that actually captures the reality of a situation. As in any sort of tyrannical government situation, the government, the nation, comes first. People may have forgotten about it, but in World War II, America had designated days that you were allowed to eat certain things. Like Monday would be ham day, so only on Monday could you eat and buy ham. And the reason why is because the nation was really stretched thin on resources. It's a very interesting idea that they captured in the video game, where these farmers are flocking in droves as refugees to the Imperial City looking for salvation to escape the long drought, because now their farms are completely depleted and everything that they produced could only be sent back to the Empire to keep the Empire itself thriving, but not the own farmer, not his own family, none of that. And then once, of course, the people started to rally and refugees kept flocking in the Imperial City, things were getting worse and worse and worse. Until eventually It looked like society was really about to collapse. The empire itself was about to go into total anarchy, total chaos. It's getting really bleak. So after 10 long years, the emperor consults with a bunch of astrologists, scholars, thinkers, and he asks them their input. How long do you think this drought is going to last? Consult the stars in the sky. Consult with the celestial bureaucracy. And tell me what the ruling is. And they tell him, hey, Emperor, you're not going to really like this, but the drought is going to last another 3 more years. Yeah, that's right. Not only is this a 10-year drought, this is actually supposed to be a 13-year drought. Don't worry, buddy. The end is in sight. Just give it 3 more years. I know that the capital is literally falling apart and hundreds of thousands of your citizens are dying. But here's the real cream on top of it. Your dynasty, the entire dynasty of the Jade Empire, is actually destined to fall, according to the celestial stars and the way that they're aligned. This is actually supposed to be the end of your dynasty and the start of something new. Well, how do you think the Emperor probably took that message? How do you think the Emperor probably even responded to such a message? That everything that he inherited, everything he built upon, that to be the Emperor is to be ordained by the heavens, that you are in fact a god amongst your people. And now you're told, oh, by the way, your empire is going to crumble during your rule. It's completely not your fault. But at the same time, your entire dynasty, your entire legacy that you built up to honor and uphold the traditions of is going to fucking collapse. Yeah, that's right. Everything you ever cared about is gone. Sorry. Better luck next reincarnation. So yeah, the Emperor did not take this very kindly. So this is where I would say, fellas, pause the video and go play Jade Empire and then come back. Alright, you didn't do it? Sucks to be you because I'm about to spoil some shit. So, with the long drought not ceasing and it's still purveying, it's still going through the lands, the Emperor took it in his hands to rectify the long drought. And this is where it's very interesting. He decided to capture the water dragon, which is a god, and she is the god of not only water, but she is also the god of life, death, and rebirth. Well, by capturing her and splitting her heart open, he is allowing water to pour out of his palace and provide water for the entire nation, reviving the nation. But also, here's where it gets really fucked, is that not only does he do this, but he also ends up blocking people from being reborn. In other words, he has stopped the process of death. What has happened now is that if you die, your soul has nowhere to go. If you die, your soul just stays stagnant. And there has been many numerous sightings in the past 20 years of his rule that there are now spirits attacking people. There are now spirits roaming around the world. And that's because these spirits go mad. They go insane the longer they're trapped because they feel constantly pulled somewhere, but there's nowhere to go. They feel like they need to be somewhere, do something. They have rest. They died of a normal death. They lived a happy life. Why the fuck are they still stuck in this abyss? So they start to go mad. They start to go insane. They start to attack people. And this is where things get really ugly. Now, you may think, well, wouldn't the people suspect that the Emperor may have done something bad? The fact that he just wills the water to come back and the water does, doesn't that seem suspicious? Well, not really. To the people, they believe that the Emperor has his best interest out for them. That to the Emperor, he only cares about what is right for his citizens. Even his own daughter thinks that. When the reality is, he actually doesn't care about that. He just wants the empire to keep going. He doesn't care whether it's a prosperous empire. He just cares that it keeps ruling. And he cares that he is the ruler. That's all he cares about. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because you see a lot of the peasants who always say that, oh, the emperor will always save us. The emperor will always come to our aid. The emperor will always provide. But at the same time, when they notice that the emperor stops touring around the empire and that the empire is becoming more and more centralized again like it was 20, 30 years ago during the drought, because ghosts are attacking everywhere, things are getting bad. Even the Imperial City itself is actually besieged by ghosts. They realize that the Emperor isn't answering any questions, and neither does he even care to show his presence. So it's leaving people in this weird situation where they're like, wait a minute, does the Emperor have it in his best intentions to take care of us? And this is where the Lotus Assassins, who are like the secret police, but they're not really secret because they just wander the streets and they flat out just kill your ass right then and there, or they take you in for secret interrogation, which usually means that you're dead. This is the product of the long drought. When you have such a long desperation that's dragged out, this negativity, and then finally a solution is presented, but it was a hasty solution, it causes this negative outcome. Now, there's a few philosophical involvements we can talk about when it comes to a long drought. My particular enjoyment is the idea behind Jade Empire, which is, it's a very like Chinese philosophy of whenever there's a bad, there's always a good, a yin and a yang. So this is where Jade Empire really captures its story, is that you are not playing as a good guy or a bad guy. You're just playing someone who does something selfishly or selflessly. Now, when it comes into the grand scheme of things like the environment may have periods of prosperity, but this prosperity is equally balanced with periods of negativity, because to throw one too prosperous can result negative effects, like corruption, abundance of resources can lead to gluttony, sin. We're talking a lot of like human stuff, really. But at the same time, this extended period of drought could cause other negativity as well, which would be mass starvation, mass death, mass suffering, and that's really what was happening. But what's interesting to me, and I love it that Jade Empire really nails this philosophy down, is that the decade of despair, the decade of the long drought, was really more of a philosophical thing of, yes, hundreds of thousands are going to die now, but once the 13 years are over, millions will be born. That once this is done, a grander empire will rise, a grander dynasty will exist. But because humanity has interfered with that, because the Emperor personally created himself this godhood that he can tangibly own, because he did that, he has now ushered in too much prosperity. And that's where we see where there's criminals abundant, there's crime everywhere, there is a crap ton of bribery happening, there's so much abundance and so much prosperity that it's causing internal decay. Not a decay of the land, but a decaying of values, a decaying of the self. And this is very fascinating to someone like me, because I'm a person who's very, I would say, realist. I like to look at things in reality with this kind of lens. Like right now, our population is almost 8 billion humans on this world. That's crazy big. So I always wondered to myself, what out there in the universe is dying in such heavy droves to cause us to prosper? And then the also thought that I tangibly have is, once we hit a certain number, like 8 billion, a majority of our population is older and younger. Not many are in my generation, which is that small little population that's supposed to be working class right now and taking care of everything. So what's going to happen to the massive population of old people when they suffer and die because not enough of me to go around to take care of them all? Well, after that period of like 20 or 40 years of those old people just dying of probably preventable deaths and suffering, crowding and stuff like that, nursing homes, after that period, time's going to look good for me, because once I get to old age, like 70, 80 years old and retire, the nursing homes are going to have so many rooms, they may say, you know what? We don't need all these rooms because there's not a lot of old people anymore in the world, so you get all the care in the world. You get one room just for storage, one room that's actually your bedroom, and the third room, we'll just make that your guest room. If you want to invite your children over and have them stay, we got you. As because of this long period of suffering, that now I get to have this long period of amazing prosperity and enjoyment. That's the way my thought process is on that. So, besides that, this has been Jade Empire, completely unscripted. I just be spewing. Yeah, I very rarely do this anymore. But dear God, this thought has been stuck in my head so long because I've been playing Jade Empire again. And I love the philosophy of sometimes things that are good are just that. They're just good times. But when things are bad, that might just be it. It might just be a bad time. At least you know ahead of that there's going to be a good time. So it's not something to freak out over, and it's not something to cheer about. Just because something good is happening doesn't mean you need to go around shoving your amazing man boobies into people's chests going, yeah, this is a great time to be alive. Because in the end, there's going to be a negative outcome. At the same time, just because something negative is happening doesn't mean that you have to sit around kicking cans down the street going, life sucks, I may as well end it all. Like, no. Because once this negative time ends, you're going to meet a very prosperous new beginning. So, besides that, this has been For Your 700, Jade Empire lore. I know, amazing. See you guys next time.